Harding was succeeded by Vice President Calvin Coolidge, a man of little influence on the political scene. Many considered him uninvolved, and that is how he liked it.
Well, this Calvin Coolidge, he used to sleep about 11 hours a night and then take a nap in the middle of the day. And he didn't do much.
His midday naps became legendary. Once he woke up from a nap and asked, "Is the country still there?" His laissez-faire policy was popular. Coolidge said, "The business of America is business."
So just keep cool and keep Coolidge in the White House 4 years more.
It helped him win the 1924 election.
In this year of 24, he's been tried, he's never...
The economy was humming. Henry Ford's production line allowed the cost of a Model T to drop to $265. They were popular, even though some found them a bit tricky to handle. It was the Jazz Age, the Roaring Twenties, speakeasies, the Charleston, and flappers. Life was fun. Even the president, known as Silent Cal, had a sense of humor.
There was one night, apparently, when he had dinner, and there were two ladies sitting next to him, and they kept trying to make conversation with him, but he wouldn't talk to them. He would just eat his peas from time to time, one way or another. And finally, one of them says, "Please, Mr. President, help me out. I've got a bet with a friend for $50 that you'll say at least 3 words to me." And Coolidge looks up at her and says, "You lose."
Yet there were persistent domestic problems, hatred and crime. KKK membership would surpass 4 million. And Prohibition, which banned alcohol, brought violence. But the nation was captivated by the heroes of the day. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh, or Lucky Lindy as he became known, was the first to fly solo across the Atlantic. And Babe Ruth set a record for home runs and became baseball's most colorful and popular figure. The stock market was booming. President Coolidge said there was no need to fear economic growth. A popular message, but one that masked the nation's underlying problems.
Nice guy? Sure. Interesting guy? Sure. Good president? No. That can happen. He did wrong by not taking major action to protect and advance the welfare of people in the country. Very important.
America was on a giddy ride, but within months of Coolidge's departure, the nation was in for a devastating fall, the likes of which had never been seen.
Number 30, Calvin Coolidge, Republican, 1923 to 1929, 52 years old, from Massachusetts.
He was a kind of cramped, somewhat mean-spirited, not very sociable or genial man.
Before being tapped as Harding's vice president, Coolidge had been a lawyer and governor of Massachusetts. The man they called Silent Cal was indeed quiet, and when he did speak, it was in a high, nasal voice. Despite claiming that his only hobby was running for office, Coolidge was an avid fisherman. He also had a dry New England wit.
There's a story of him at a state dinner, and a woman sitting next to him trying to engage him says, "I'll bet you, Mr. President, that I can get you to say more than 2 words in the course of this evening." And he turned to her briefly and said, "You lose."
Coolidge had a novel way of getting exercise by riding this mechanical horse in his White House bedroom.
The president would ride it before dinner in the evening. He would ride the horse and get all sweaty, get off the horse, and go down and eat.
History hasn't recorded whether the president preferred to gallop or trot. Although normally stoic, Coolidge was always game to play dress-up for a good photo opportunity. In 1924, less than a year into his presidency, voters were content to keep cool with Coolidge by electing him to a full term of his own. On March 4th, 1925, he was sworn in by Chief Justice William Howard Taft, the first time in history an ex-president gave the oath of office to a president. During his administration, Coolidge kept a tight rein on the federal budget. He used his veto power to kill pay raises for postal workers and bonuses for World War I veterans. He also lowered taxes twice. His goal was to keep government small and business booming.
He believed in American business as the dominant force in American life. He once said, he who builds a factory builds a temple. He who works there worships there.
Coolidge presided over a period of prosperity, but his economic policies failed to anticipate the future and the calamity of the Great Depression that lay ahead.
Coolidge did what the times seemed to require. If he made a mistake, it was in the economics of the time, which he did not understand, and I think most of the people of his generation did not understand.
The president may have missed the increasing signs of economic instability because his management style was to rely heavily on his cabinet.
The case in point was Andrew Mellon, the Secretary of the Treasury. He was the third richest man in the country, and no recession, not to mention depression, could touch him. And I think he didn't understand what was going on, and Coolidge trusted in Mellon, and thereby made an error.
In 1928, Calvin Coolidge decided not to run for a second term, and his Secretary of Commerce, Herbert Hoover, won the White House. Popular in his day, Coolidge is now largely a forgotten figure, a quiet president who presided over a roaring era. President Harding often hosted poker games at the White House and once gambled away a set of presidential china from Benjamin Harrison's administration.